Hello guys, welcome to the Fusion game. I will be showing you the current state of the game. The most of the core physics is implemented, although there will be probably some more auxiliary controls added on later. What I want to show to you how this works at the moment. So just a quick scan on the panels. So these are our main tokamak controls. I will go through them a bit later. These are our storage tanks. This is where we store the fuel, and this is where we extract the ions and put them into correct storage tanks. We have some pumps, vacuum and cryo pumps. We have a cooling system, the helium one. Then there is the molten salt system, and finally we have panels for both turbines along with all the stuff that they need: steam generator, condenser and water treatment. So initially the salt has to be melted, so that's why we use heaters, electric heaters. They heat up the salt. It's already pretty hot at this moment, but we should go above, say, 200 degrees, because if it's not like molten, then the pumps won't work. So the helium circuit, this is the initial cooling circuit. It cools the shielding of the tokamak directly, and it doesn't really have a lot of capacity. It just transfers heat to the molten salt system. The molten salt system has two tanks, cold tank and hot tank, and this is where you can actually store a lot of energy, because the basic idea is that the tokamak doesn't work at the same power all the time. Either you work on cycles where you shut it down from time to time to eject the waste and inject new fuel, and even if you are like doing a continuous run, you still cannot like sustain constant power all the time. So this is why you have this molten salt system where you can actually store a lot of power. I will show this to you in a moment. So this is our setting for the auto control. We want 700 degrees. This is the maximum, and I will set up this in a moment. Let's start our tokamak. So these are our tanks with fuel, deuterium and tritium. These are our storage tanks. I will start injecting the fuel into these tanks. We will use this to inject fuel into the tokamak, and at this moment you can see in the tokamak there are almost 3 grams of matter. This is a little bit too much, but it's okay. We have several components, so we have deuterium, tritium, helium and some other components, and you can check here what is the fuel ratio, so how much of deuterium and tritium to the total mass, and also what is the ratio between deuterium and tritium. This is the right ratio we want. So I will start. Maybe I will eject a little bit. I want about 2000 milligrams, so I will start the cryo pumps to start injecting the matter from the tokamak. So what you can see on the screens, this is a cross section. So the tokamak is kind of a torus. We only see a cross section of one part. So yeah, at this moment it's nothing to see here actually. But you can see now I've ejected. Okay, let me stop this. So I've ejected some of the matter. We are left with 2000 milligrams. The proportions are the same. Okay, fuel ratio 0.3. It's not a lot. We can have higher, but if you have higher fuel ratio, this will cause the reaction to explode. It may be hard to later sustain it. Okay, I will enable this. So now everything that we ejected went here. This is our separation column, and its goal is to like separate the deuterium and tritium into this route, which then moves it to the storage tanks here, and the rest goes here. Here we can again separate what's left of the deuterium and tritium, push it back in, and the other gases go either to the vent or to the helium storage tank. So I will just enable this, and it will start to separate everything and hopefully vent the other component which we don't need at all. Okay, so let's start the reaction. I will just make a short heat up to synchronize the turbines, and later on I will try to do a more continuous run. So what you want to do is to heat up with these heating beams. Okay, before we do that, we also have to like create the magnetic field. So we have 4 coils. This is the main one. There are some horizontal and vertical corrections. Also we have ejector coils. The ejector coil form kind of a suction to the down part of the tokamak, where we can then vent it with the bottom pump. This is what we will do in a moment. And okay, while this builds up, you can see that okay, this cross section changes a bit. We'll see it better in a moment. And I will now start heating this up. So the main parameter is the temperature in the inner part. Once it reaches 10 kilovolts, 10 kilo electronvolts of temperature or energy, the fusion should start. So this is the cross section. The matter like goes around the tokamak. You just see the one slice of it, and yeah, it should start in a moment. Also, I should, okay, this ejector coil should also be magnetized. Okay, let me stop this. Let's see what we get. So this is heating up slowly. So on these screens you can see density, temperature, pressure, and also we can check different components. So this is deuterium, tritium, helium, and other. At this moment they are mixed with pretty well, but this will change. Okay, we are almost there. Once the reaction starts, you will see immediately that the fuel ratio will start dropping. We'll have to start providing fuel in order to sustain it. I want to make a short burst for a moment, just to get some energy for the turbines. Okay, it's almost done. And now you can see the reaction has started. Once this happens, I will disable the heating. The reaction should self-sustain itself for some time. You can see this is the thermal energy output. And you will immediately see that the helium and the shielding temperature rises. It's even, okay, I didn't start the pumps, so yeah, it's too much. This is too much. But then, and we also have to start these pumps, so yeah, let me do it now. So once we do it, the helium temperature will drop, and okay, maybe let's stop this one for a moment. Let me explain how this works. So now I'm only operating the cold leg. The cold leg is going through the heat exchanger here, taking the energy, and you can see that the hot salt, it's now 700 degrees, is being pumped into the hot tank. The amount of salt in the hot tank is rising, and the temperature is rising, so this is how we are storing the energy. Okay, the reaction is proceeding here. Okay, this is too much. So you see, when I opened the ejector coil to the maximum, it forms this kind of suction to the lower part. We can now suck out everything back into these separation columns, and we can observe how everything changes here. So you see the fuel ratio is already low and the total mass is dropping, so we should be putting now fuel into the tokamak to like sustain the reaction. But I actually don't want to sustain it. I think we've gathered enough heat for now. See, we have over 100 degrees more, so let me just stop the reaction now. I will reduce the magnetic field. This should stop the reaction. Okay, it stopped. So the reaction stopped. I will stop this pump. And now, okay, it got very hot here. So now, when I operate the hot pump, it will pump the water through the steam generator. So I can put a steam demand I want, let's say 500 kilograms per second, and once I put it on, it will start now taking the hot salt through the steam generator. So I will start the pumps here. So these are feed water pumps into the steam generator. You can see the pressure is already building. So let me also start the condenser. So these are the condenser air ejector, steam jetter ejectors. I will put this on auto, enable preheaters, one polisher, and once the pressure in the condenser drops, okay, yeah, I have to first lower the pressure with the condenser air ejectors. I'll do it for the second turbine too. Once it drops, I will open the main steam isolation valve and we can then proceed. So let's see what's happening here. Okay, the temperature dropped, it's pretty much dead, and the columns are pretty well separated, so you can see how much actually deuterium tritium is in each column. And yeah, once this is separated, it goes back to the storage tanks. You see they are rising slowly. So the pressure is building here. It has nowhere to go because the condenser is not working yet. Maybe I will stop this for a moment. Let me shut down the pump. So now the steam generation rate will drop to 0 because I'm not transferring any energy. So nothing changes here. Okay. So maybe in preparation for the next run, I will start injecting some fuel. So these are deuterium and tritium injectors. So I want to keep this ratio at the correct level. Also, I have to observe how much there is actually in. And if you are interested where is the matter injected, you can check it. You can see this is the deuterium. It's being injected from the right part, so the outside part of the tokamak. And if we check the tritium, it's here. So it mixes in the center, although not so very well. Let's look at our helium. It just gathers in the inside now. It's held by the magnetic field. Okay, when we are at 2000, this will be okay. Maybe a little more. The tritium here. And how is our condenser? Okay, almost at 500 millibars, so almost there. Okay, more tritium. Oh, sorry, I should put more deuterium actually. And once we are at 2000, this is pretty much the place where I started. A little higher fuel ratio, so the start may be a bit rough. Okay, let's shut it down here. Going back to the condenser. Okay, now I can open the isolation valve, and I can. So now the steam is going into the condenser. So back to this. Okay, is everything okay here? Yeah, the pump is starting, so we should have steam. Okay, I will need to. Okay, steam generation started. I will open the bypass a little bit. And once we have proper vacuum, it's already here. I can start the turbine now. Can I? Okay, actually the pressure is too low. Now it's fine. I will open the turbine valve. You can see the RPMs here. The turbine has to be synced at 1500 RPM. I will now reduce the steam demand, the steam production. I think this is enough. You can close the bypass. So you can see the auto control is now reducing the flow in the salt circuit. The pump is dropping to reduce the steam, and I'm just using the energy which is like contained in the temperature of the salt. So we have the synchroscope. I will reduce the valve now a little bit, trying to stop at 1500 RPMs. Okay, this is too much. Or use the precision valve now. Okay. And this should be good enough to synchronize. Oh, yeah. Okay, it's done. Pressure out to hold. And now I will increase the steam demand again. Let's say I put it at 500 for a moment. So you can see we can start actually generating energy, power, just using the temperature in the salt that we have already created. Let me just quickly check. This looks okay. The pressure is a little bit too low, but it's rising. Bypass is closed. Okay, looks fine to me. So back to the tokamak. Okay, I will start heating this again. See, when heating this expands due to internal pressure. And this time I will try to more or less balance it. I will maybe add a little bit of these coils, though I'm not yet sure how much. So this is a matter of tuning up. How is deuterium and tritium mixed? At this moment pretty well. Okay, another thing, once the reaction is running, you want to actually breed tritium, because tritium is very expensive, you cannot buy it like that, but you can breed it because you have a lithium blanket around the tokamak, so the neutrons hitting the lithium will create helium, will create tritium. Yeah, okay, so helium is used to like process this. So I will enable this helium circuit. It's going here to this main. You can see the helium is rising here, and once we start the reaction, the tritium will also appear here. It's taken out from the blanket into this column. So we're almost there with the reaction. Once it starts, I will again disable the heating. The reaction will be very rough at the beginning. Hopefully the autocontrol will handle this. Okay, and now I will try to sustain this reaction. So I need to start injecting fuel. And okay, let's see. You can see that tritium is being bred in the blanket. The blanket, with time, it will deteriorate. We'll need to replace it, but it's pretty good now. And now I will need to find balance. So you see the mass is rising. I'm injecting tritium. I need more tritium. But as the mass is rising, I also need to eject more, so I will charge this ejector coil. And the goal is to balance this total mass along with the ratio and fuel ratio. It's okay. Still rising, but very slowly. It's almost balanced. We are actually rising the amount of fuel now, so this ratio should be rising if I'm correct. So I want to slow down the process a little bit. And this would self-sustain pretty well. Unfortunately, it's not being mixed that well. This is the main problem. As you can see, the deuterium is like going mostly downwards, while the tritium remains in the upper part, and it doesn't want to mix very well in the core. The core will be full of helium, which is the ash, the waste, and probably this cannot be like self-sustained. The power will drop probably until we kind of find a steady state. Okay, let's leave it for now. Let's have a look here. So you can see the temperature is rising. It means we can produce actually more power. So I will put this at maybe 1500 for the moment. Let's start generating some real electricity. So now the pumps will open more to meet this demand. You can also observe the steam generation rate is rising and autocontrol is adjusting the feed water pumps, the recirculation and everything. The pressure hold is holding this pressure at desired level. You can see our generation rate is rising. Okay, let's look at our reaction. So this is dropping, probably cannot sustain it like that. So I will help it a bit with injection of the pellets. So the pellets, you can choose where to inject them. You can see I'm injecting them here. I can actually choose where to do it. And this should help the reaction for some time. I'll also maximize the coils because the power is dropping, so I want a little more of the magnetic field just to sustain it. So let's see what happens now. And you can also see that we need to reduce the fueling. It's definitely too much at this moment. Let me stop fueling for a moment. And if you see this reaction dying, you can help it out by heating it up again. Okay, you see, once I started heating it up, it's rising again. Although you don't want to do it because this costs a lot of electricity, so you just do it for a moment. And yeah. And the whole goal of the game is like finding a nice steady state, preferably without the pellet injections, because the pellets, you see, there's a limited number of them, so you actually don't want to use them all the time. I will start fueling again with this. And see, the tritium is rising too quickly, so let me reduce this. And I'm again trying to find a steady state, more or less. I never can find a very good steady state, but okay, you can see that this is almost constant, the fuel I'm injecting, but now we are ejecting too much. So let me discharge the ejector coil a little bit, because I'm aiming to have all of these three at constant value. Okay, maybe reduce the deuterium a little bit. This way I should be able to sustain this reaction all the time. And this, you see, the temperature is rising. It means we might produce a lot of more power with our current setup. So let's put this at 2000. And this looks pretty good. It's quite stable. These values are almost stable. Of course, it needs some tuning. We actually have more tritium now than we started, I think. It's rising because the blanket is in really good shape. Later on it will be harder to breathe it. You can see how much we are doing. So we are breathing like 6 milligrams per second. And how much are we injecting? It's hard to tell because we have no, we don't have any. We could stop this and try to judge how much tritium is used, but you can see it's only about 1.5 per second milligram. Let's look at our columns. So you can see the separation is not so good right now. Therefore, for example, here we have 3 tritium, and this will go into the helium tank, unfortunately. You can look at the tank composition. So you can see that in the deuterium storage tank it mostly consists of deuterium, but there is some helium also here. This is because this is not perfect. It's only perfect if you stop pumping new stuff and give it time to separate. Okay, and we are actually so hot now that we could start the second turbine. And if we want to start the second turbine, we need to provide some of the salt to this second steam generator. We do it by this valve. 100 means everything goes to the right. When I'm reducing this number, now some of the salt will go to this left steam generator. You see the temperature started rising, so you can repeat the process of working with the feed water pumps, with the condenser, opening the bypass a little bit. Okay, we cannot do it. I have to. Okay, now I have to open the isolation valve, and you can repeat this process. You can synchronize the second turbine. The rated power of the turbine is 1000 megawatts. Let's put a little more here. And you can also store the energy. If you reduce the hot tank, or maybe you increase the cold tank, let me do it. Now we are pumping more of the cold salt into the hot tank. So you can see the hot tank will be rising, and this is how we can store energy for later. This however can reduce how much steam we are generating now. Let's leave it for a moment. So you can see this is pretty stable. We are actually okay. This ratio is not perfect, and actually the deuterium is pretty good. I should reduce the tritium a bit. And yeah, as you can see, you can work with this without a lot of supervision. But if you want more power, probably this will be more difficult. You can see we can inject a lot of more fuel, and we are not doing it yet. So if you want to change the power produced, this is not a very simple task. But if you experiment, you can do it. Let's just see our components here. Okay. So how is the second system looking? Okay, the pressure is rising. I might add a little bit to quicken this up. I can add some more steam in general. You can see working this with auto control is really easy, but doing this manually can be really challenging, especially one person. Okay, it seems that the reaction is dying out a little bit. This mostly... Why is this happening? Actually, the fuel ratio is rising. This is probably due to this pretty bad mixing. If you feel like adding a little more power, maybe I'll just try to add these coils a little bit, not a lot. But this should give me a little rise in the power. Not very lot. It's really hard to influence this by hand. It doesn't work like a nuclear reactor, where you just move the rods and you get what you want. This is much more challenging to do. I think it's pretty fun. So I will put a little more energy here to quicken this up. Yeah, this is generally everything that we have at this moment. I didn't show you the vacuum pumps. They are used only in the initial moment or after the reactor trip to create the initial vacuum. Then we'll use the cryo pumps as I showed you. Maybe a little less deuterium. changes you make here don't affect the reaction immediately, because you see this everything you inject, it has to get to the center, mix out there, and these are the regions of the reaction, so it all takes time. Okay, the pressure is rising here. We can actually start the turbine now. Oh, can we? No. Oh, we are. What's wrong? Doesn't look like we are isolated. Oh, I didn't enable auto control here in the condenser. Okay, so yeah, the pressure is too high. And you can see this, we are still generating a lot more energy that we are actually putting into the network, because the temperature is still rising. So we should either reduce this or synchronize the turbine quicker. This thermal power output, it's not real actually. I think we are doing much more than this number. It has to be tuned up in future. How is our fuel looking? Still a lot of deuterium left. And the pressure is almost correct. Now let's try to synchronize the turbine. I will close the bypass. This is looking good, very stable. The pressure rate is just above 1. I can think of opening the bypass just a little bit now. It will be easier to... Oh. Okay. Okay, almost there. Now I should be able to synchronize this. Maybe just a small minus. This, okay, I'm over. Of course, this isn't the correct way of synchronizing, doing it on the too slow. I still got some positive load. Okay. Okay, once this is synchronized, I will now switch to equal, so salt is distributed equally between both systems. So you'll see on the left turbine the power will rise, on the right one it will drop. Hopefully I didn't do it too quickly. Now I can rise the steam demand to much higher value. Okay, the cold tank is almost empty, so let me now put this on auto. So now the hot tank is really has gathered a lot of really enormous amount of energy which we can use later. But at this moment let's put this on demand. So okay, there's no demand, but let's put it at just 1000 megawatts, which is what are the pumps rated for. At 1000 megawatts they will be at 95% or something like that. And this is surprisingly stable. So you can see we are still producing more tritium than we are using. Unfortunately, the deuterium will have to be bought. We cannot produce it ourselves. And of course, at some stage we'll have to replace the lithium blanket. Okay, this is not enough. So let's add 1000 more. Maybe let's just stop here for a moment. So the steam generation rises in both of the circuits. And let's see what steam do we need for 1000. Megawatts. So almost there. So it's like 4800. It's just not enough. Let's try 5000. Yeah, it's just a little above. Okay, let's keep it like that. So how is this looking? Actually, the temperature is still rising, so we are still producing more power than we are using. Maybe this needs a little tune because we have still a lot of space here to add even more power. So everything is in a stage of tuning up at this moment. But you can see it's pretty neat. And yeah, I want to continue this. I want to show you how can we now use the power we gathered here. In case, for example, the reactor trips, I will use the trip. This fills the whole reactor with neutral gas. It will stop the reaction. Let's try it. So you can see the reaction died out immediately. And now let's just put the cold tank on minimum. Now we will be moving the hot salt into the cold tank through the steam generators. So now the temperature will drop. Also the amount of salt will drop, but you can see this doesn't influence us at all, because now we are working just from the energy that we gathered. So this is where you can like prepare the tokamak for another cycle. Okay, I should like stop fueling, of course. So now you see there is a lot of other mass. If I want to prepare the tokamak for another run, I will use the vacuum pumps to pump this out. Oh, the mass is still rising. Okay, I didn't. Okay, I think we are still. Okay, now the scrum has ended. So now I can start removing this mass. Unfortunately, we are wasting a lot of tritium this way because it's still inside. There is no way to separate it from the neutral gas, so it's really something you should avoid doing. You can also always stop the reaction by just slowly discharging the coils, and it will work. And you can see we have plenty of time. Still working on the energy that we gathered, still sending the 1000 megawatts for each turbine. Nothing really happening here, just using energy that is stored in the salt. So yeah, this is how it works. I think I've shown you everything. There is still some more stuff to be done, and this is mainly physics at this moment. We haven't been doing any modeling yet, although I want the models to be very simple because the game has pretty complex physics, and it really makes the game quite laggy. So if we add a lot of complicated models to make it look much better, it may actually affect the gameplay, and this is something which we don't really want. So now when the vacuum is pretty good, I'm now switching to the cryo pumps. They are pumping everything out, but I'm not putting this into the columns because they would overfill quickly. I'm just venting everything here on the exhaust of these pumps. So this is how you can prepare the tokamak for further operations. You have to pump this down to about 1000, then inject fuel, and you are ready. As you can see, we are still in demand, whatever the demand is, because we still have actually a lot of energy stored in the salt. Okay, so hopefully this was fun to watch. Yeah, and thank you for your attention. See you next time.